Hey, everybody. We are on Unit 16, Session 1. Unit 16, Session 1. We're starting a new unit this upcoming Sunday. Um, and we are sort of entering fully into the captivity period of Israel's history. So we're going to be looking at a lot of major prophets. Um, Later on, we'll get into the book of Daniel. But make no mistake, when we're at this part of the Bible, the people of God are in captivity. So if you remember the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, there was Israel had split into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Northern kingdom has fallen about 150 years prior to this. We're here somewhere in the 500s, probably mid 500s here. Babylon has conquered the southern kingdom in 586 BC. And so when we're looking here at the story in Jeremiah, it's sometime probably several years after that. But the people are in captivity. They would be in captivity for 70 years. Um, and we'll look at kind of how they get out of that later on. But so it can be seen as a really dark time for Israel, and it was. They were in a foreign land. They were in a place where they couldn't worship freely. They couldn't live freely. They were in captivity. And so we're looking at Jeremiah chapter 30 today. Jeremiah writes primarily during this time period of Israel's history. Um, and it's cool because in the midst of trial and judgment and captivity, God is always preparing His people for His restoration of them. Um, God demonstrates His love for them, that even when they're in that captivity, He's reminding them of His promise. So let's just look right at the curriculum here. Your first point says the day of the Lord will bring freedom, and so you see this terminology of the day of the Lord come up numerous times, and really that's when God will judge Babylon and bring about freedom to the people of Israel. And so they will go back to their land. They will have freedom once more. But if you look in verses 8 through 11 of chapter 30, that's where we see this. Um, and the curriculum says that freedom in the Bible is not just the privilege to do whatever we want, it's the ability to serve God without anything holding us back. And so, an interesting view on freedom there, but it's the truthful thing. I mean, freedom isn't just anarchy. It's not just do as you please kind of mentality, because we're sinful people. If we did that, there would bring more destruction than anything. And so, but they will be in a place where they can worship the Lord. Um, as they would like to, without any persecution. They weren't allowed to gather to worship or do any of these things. It was not a good place, and so the day of the Lord would bring freedom. The day of the Lord would bring freedom. Second point, um, the day of the Lord will bring healing. The day of the Lord will bring healing, and not only like healing in the sense that they get to go back to their land, but don't miss the fact that Israel's here for a reason. Like that, it's not just bad luck that they're here. You know, they really sort of asked for this, and their continual rebellion and sinfulness through the years and the generations. Um, and so, because of that, there had been a lot of damage done in their hearts towards God. A lot of damage, a lot of resentment. I would like to imagine in this moment of God, like, look at where we are now. You know, this is why we don't praise you. Um, and just because God will bring them back does not mean that they'll just immediately be like, "Oh, we're good now." You know, like God has to heal their hearts, right? He has to chase after their hearts, and their sinfulness has unfortunately created such a blockade towards towards accepting and allowing the Lord in, that Christ will have to heal. You know, God will have to heal them. And so when the day of the Lord comes, it will bring healing to them, healing to their hearts, healing to the sickness that is within them, to where they will repent and turn back to the Lord. And then finally, the day of the Lord will bring restoration. The day of the Lord will bring restoration. And if you think about it, restoration is pretty much the theme of the Bible, right? You start with perfection, and then the fall of man enters in Genesis chapter 3, and then everything up until that point, all the way up to the cross, is about restoration. It's how the people can rightly relate to God again. And the Old Testament's really about how, even though God was with the people, that still wasn't sufficient. He had to send his son, and it was born of the Virgin Mary, and he would grow up and he would live the perfect life, and he would die a death that would be a permanent sacrifice to atone for the sins of not just a generation, of not just a select group of people, but the sins of the entire world, past, present, and future. And then we might have life in him now. Now the ball's on our court to put our trust in him, which most of us have. And so point being is that in the same way, he's going to send them back, and life's not going to look like it was before. They're not going to raise up another king of Israel and be like, we want another King David. Their true king will come one day when Jesus steps on the earth, and that would be about 500 years before that would happen for them. But point being, through all this, we're able to see God's hand of redemption, his hand of grace throughout the difficult times. And that is something that I believe we all can see when we look at our trials, and through that sort of lens, we can see God's hand of faithfulness through it all. So hope that helps you today. Hope you have a great week, and thank you guys so much for what you do. It really is a blessing to be able to serve alongside you guys. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you later.